friend of the show, buddy of the show, Pat McAfee correspondent Mark Caboli, said that Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson's relationship, they made it work. They got through the season. They did what they needed to do as professionals. But at the end of the day, they weren't always on the same page. It wasn't the smoothest working relationship. In fact, he says that it wasn't the greatest working relationship. And you got to think at 36 years old, with an offensive coordinator that might go to the Jets, and we can talk about that on the other side of this if you want, but might go to the Jets, might stay in Pittsburgh, just interviewed for the Chicago Bears. Who knows where Arthur Smith goes? But if he stays in Pittsburgh, you got to think that gets taken into account. You got to think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at this and saying, do you guys hear the construction now? You're muted, but yeah, now you hear the banging. The Pittsburgh Steelers have to be looking at it saying, we had a guy who our offensive coordinator loved, absolutely loved. I mean, Arthur Smith was almost brought to tears talking about Justin Fields at the end of his starting tenure. And then at the beginning of Russ, all of this reports come out of Arthur Smith likes Justin Fields more than he likes Russell Wilson. And now we're hearing that, and you got to think that it just follows suit. In your opinion, does it change anything? Does it remove Russell Wilson more than it has? And if Arthur Smith does come back, does it favor Justin Fields? And if he doesn't come back, does it say that, hey, well, maybe Russ comes back with offensive coordinator number 2?
It doesn't really change anything in my eyes because at the end of the day, they still made it work, right? Whether or not it was successful, they still were able to work together throughout the remainder of the season, and they're both professionals. This isn't a young quarterback that is very, very influential or can be very heavily influenced based on whether or not he likes his offensive coordinator. This is Russell Wilson. This is a guy who's been in situations where he's been very much disliked. I mean, look no further than the situation between him and Sean Payton a year ago. I don't think it was ever anything. If it was anything, it was not anything probably close to that level. So I don't think that would discourage Russ from coming back. I think Russ wants to come back. And I don't think in the other end of things, if they bring Arthur Smith back, that signals that they are going to move forward with Justin Fields. Because to me, it's two entirely different camps right now. It's, does Mike Tomlin want to bring back Arthur Smith? And then what quarterback does Mike Tomlin want to go with? I think they're two entirely different things. And I don't think the relationships make much of a difference on either end of it.
Look at these results. People are making free money betting on sports, making thousands every month. The secret? They're using OddsJam. OddsJam isn't just another betting app. It's turning the entire system in your favor. OddsJam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds differences across sportsbooks. Bet both sides, and no matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. You put $500 on Boise State to win on FanDuel and $335 on their opponent San Francisco on DraftKings. You're guaranteed to make $50 win or lose. With the OddsJam mobile app, you get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands monthly. To get you started, use our code ALLSteelersTalk for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll profit during that trial, and if you don't, cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to oddsjam.com, use our code ALLSteelersTalk, and start making money the smart way. Okay. I agree and disagree at the same time. I agree that Arthur Smith doesn't get to make the decision of who comes back at quarterback. Like, he just clearly does not. But I do think that the fact that Mike Tomlin probably had to be a middleman here to some degree when it came to Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson will play a role. Like, if Arthur Smith is sitting around, because that's who doesn't get a word here. Who doesn't get a word here is Russell Wilson. It's Mike Tomlin will sit in rooms with Omar Khan. We'll sit in rooms with Arthur Smith. We'll sit in rooms with Art Rooney and have conversations about where they go in the future. And Arthur Smith isn't going to sit there and say, well, Russell Wilson should be the guy. He's got my vote of confidence. He's going to say, I think Justin's the guy. Most likely. And if that's the case, you got to think that if he's vouching for him, the Steelers have to at least listen, at least take it into some. You can't say your offensive coordinator says this and you're saying, well, screw you. On the defensive side of the ball, he does that all the time.
Yeah, but don't you think that Arthur Smith didn't go to bat for Justin Fields earlier this season as well, and it didn't make a difference?
I think he did. And but I also think that he understood his place and was well aware of the plan the entire time. But Arthur Smith wasn't the only one. The only difference is that Justin Fields finished the season 4-2 and Russell Wilson finished at 6-5. And the Steelers ended the season on an absolute downfall where their offense looked worse than exhausting. They were atrocious. So I think that, like, where they stood in week 7, coming off a win against Vegas that wasn't super impressive. Justin's looking good, but is he looking that good? You just lost to the Colts. All of that played a role where right now the circumstance is different, Like, I think Arthur Smith probably did say, I think Justin's got a lot of potential. Maybe we should stick with him in week 6 going into week 7, but there was no ground to stand on. You didn't see what Russell Wilson had. Now you saw it. Now when he says it, Mike's got to be thinking, yeah, maybe you're right. And I would imagine Art Rooney and Omar Khan have that in the back of their heads too, saying, yeah, he's got a point. Like, Russ didn't really turn out to be the guy that everybody thought he did. Plus, it doesn't sound like, to your argument here, it sounded like in week 7, there was Mike Tomlin dropped the coldest line ever that turned into just punch him right in the face with this is why I'm well compensated. He knew what was happening. Today, his words on Tuesday didn't sound the same. He didn't sound as locked into Russell Wilson as he did all offseason long. So I think it's just different. I don't think the message changes. I just think the Mike Tomlin being convinced is different. Mike Tomlin's outlook on the situation is more open, I would imagine, which doesn't play. I'm not saying that Russ isn't coming back as him and Arthur Smith disagreed on some play calls. What I'm saying is that it just kind of all seems to add up to the point of, like, Russ has definitely got to be the guy on the outside. At least you have to imagine he's the guy on the outside, while Justin is a little bit of a favorite here.